Hey everyone, my name is Ben Chaish, and this is going to be a practical camera review of the Nikon L35AF. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I am a snob for things like Leica and some high-end stuff, but I also just love having a camera with me at all times, which means that I also really just enjoy having small, compact, point-and-shoot kind of cameras around. Now, this camera for me feels like it's kind of in a interesting middle ground between a lot of the other cameras that I have. So I have some, underwater cameras, some Olympus cameras, Contax, Fujifilm, all sorts of different point and shoot cameras. I would say this is probably the big boy of the bunch. This thing is definitely thicker. It's definitely a little bit heavier and obviously a little bit older. This camera, to me, while I don't exactly know when it came out, it seems like it's, early 80s kind of thing, which to me would then mean kind of like the early days of autofocus. And one of the things that's amazing about this is it just has a lot of features that some of the more popular and cult classic kind of cameras from the 90s has. So right off the bat, this doesn't have DX code reading, I don't believe. And so you do have to move this little thing around on the lens to adjust your ISO. It's kind of annoying, but you know what? You're allowed to and able to adjust your ISO settings, which then adjusts your exposure settings, which I guess for like someone that just doesn't know anything about photography isn't that great unless you're just buying the same film over and over. But I love to push film, I love to overexpose film when needed. And so the ability to actually let me set my own ISO on here is a feature that I really, really enjoy. So most of the time I'm actually photographing this camera with Tri-X. I found that the lens on this, and maybe it's just my copy, but the lens is a little bit less contrasty and stuff like that as some of my other ones. And so what I've been really, really loving doing on this is just putting Tri-X in here and pushing it a stop, but then leaving the exposure at 400. I find that that gives me a really, usable image at the end of the day. And I end up pushing the film a little bit to add a little bit more contrast into there. Just because of the nature of pushing film, you get a little bit more contrast going through.
I can still feel the windows down. Listening to Jimmy Eat World, riding 3 wide on Blake's bench seat, yeah. My God, it's been 10 years now. I would have his back tomorrow, and he'd still fight anyone who tried to touch me. Can you take me back where we were just kids who weren't scared of getting older, yeah. One knows you like they know you, but no one probably ever will. You can grow up, make new ones, but truth is, there's nothing like old friends. 'Cause you can't make old friends.
Now, the other kind of amazing thing about this camera is the viewfinder, which isn't that great, but one of the things that it does, which so many other cameras don't do, is you have a distance scale. So it has, I don't think it's even gonna be possible to see in here, but it shows 4 different things. It shows like a single person, 2 people from like the waist up, a family of people, so like a full body kind of distance, and then a mountain. And then every time that you click, half press the shutter, it shows you where on that distance scale things are at. And so many times, even on like my Contax T2, which is like an $800 point and shoot camera now, I have no idea where the camera is focusing, and that's one of my biggest kind of gripes with point and shoot and compact cameras in general. So the nice thing is, like, if I'm taking a photo of my iPad here or something like that, I can look at it, click, and it shows me that it is focusing on something really, really close because it's giving me just that kind of headshot about what I am in this frame, meaning that it's gonna take that good photo. But let's say I move past it, you know, and accidentally focus past. Now it's showing me kind of like the full body superimposed little thing on the distance scale. So I know right off the bat that it's not gonna be focused on my iPad right here. So I just miss so many less photos because of that on this camera. Now, there's a few things. This thing is heavy. It's a little bit kind of like more bulky and weird. The styling is kind of weird, but it also has a grip. Now, this is probably just because the camera is just kind of old and broken, but you know, like my on-off button here works totally fine, but it's just a little bit janky. Like turning it on, it works. But it's not great or anything. Now, one of the kind of random things about this that you don't really have much control over is the flash. It's kind of nice that it actually pops up right here. So, you know, you gain a tiny, tiny bit of distance between the lens and the flash, hopefully reducing some red eye. But, you know, you can't turn it off. It just kind of pops up when it wants to, and it sees something really dark. So like once you close it, then it turns off. But since I have this big softbox here, it's probably not going to let me, it's probably not going to turn on there. So when it thinks it needs it, it pops it on and then gives you this nice little, you know, old school flash indicator, letting you know that the flash is charged and ready to go. Boom, cool, you know, flash is ready. And one of the other kind of like bonus things about this is that it just takes AA batteries. Like most of the time, most compact cameras take really random, crappy batteries that you never want to try to find, and you're gonna have to go to Walgreens or something like that and spend like $12 on batteries. And this thing takes just regular AA batteries that you can find just about anywhere for just about nothing, which is great. It does add some weight to it, like you can feel the batteries in here. But honestly, it's not bad, and it's a really big convenience to have that in a camera. And then lastly, a random feature is just having the side lugs. I don't know why, and maybe it's just because it's different, but I love having a camera that has the side lugs. And then you just pop it up, and then it sits on your chest and wherever you are a little bit better. A lot of my other point and shoot cameras just have the single, you know, strap lug space. And then what happens is, because it's only in a single space, it just kind of flips around, and then it's like against your chest and then flopping around at a single point. Having this have both of these lugs at the same spot just like keeps it in the right spot. It doesn't have any issue when you're walking around holding it and stuff like that. So I find that to be a huge bonus. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, please leave them in the comments below. And if you're interested in cameras like this, I'm reviewing and have already reviewed a bunch of compact point and shoot film cameras. And I just love photography and love stuff like this. So if you are into photography and into cameras like I am, subscribing would probably be a great idea. So thanks again, and I will see you on the next one.